Hi, my name is Jake Muhlstein, and I'm going to be presenting on coding styles and the disruption that can be caused by having different coding styles that are being taught in university settings and also that's being required by employers in the workplace. So the conflict of coding standards and styles can be anything from indentation and comments to something more advanced and it would just be different coding styles altogether. And so what that can cause is it can cause disruption in the program development cycle on people coding in different languages, not used to the language that they're coding, or learning a new style of coding that's required by the new job that they're going to be working at. As you can see here, there was research done on the top 39 U.S. computer science departments in the US, and it goes over the different languages that they used initially to teach the new student that was learning computer programming, basically solidifying their foundation. And here we can see that Python and Java were by far the most popular, but there were 5 other programming languages that were also popular enough to be included in the 39, or at least in the top 40 of the US computer programming schools. So comparing what was taught in school and what programming language was used to teach a new student about computer programming, and comparing it to what Indeed has posted on their job posts, you can see here we got a compilation of a job post for the job title computer programmer, and we looked at the different languages that they were requiring, and you can see here that again Java and Python are probably the most popular programming languages that are being required. But what actually is interesting, that in the university where Python was being taught more than Java, looks like Java in the workforce is being requested. And so you just see here that there is that style and the coding discrepancy that can cause a lot of issues in the computer programming cycle. So here are our 3 proposed solutions that we came up with. One was a digital repository, which would be a online resource that would have agreed upon stylistic coding procedures that would be easily accessed by all. This number 2 was company collaboration, where actual companies in the IT industry would get together and they'd come up with their own stylistic and coding foundation. And then the third one that we came upon was the annual company and school conference, where companies and schools alike would come together and decide what those styles would be taught at the beginning of a student's learning for becoming a computer programming major, and then making the transfer out of school easier into the workforce. So solution 1 we talked about was a digital repository. Basically what that would encapsulate would be a website that would be created and would list the agreed upon commenting styles, naming conventions, code simplicity, and also portability for coding. What are the pros of this? So we have uniform style guide. It would be approved by the ACM. It would be accessible online, and there would be absolutely no paywall. So it could be, for a startup business or a big business, the same opportunity for both of them to go ahead and access the information would put everybody on the same ground. So cons to this, to the digital repository, would be a high pain point to enter in. So you'd have to have companies that would forego what they have been doing up to this point, and then that they would go ahead and need to switch to maybe something completely different than what they were enforcing. Then also the other thing would be the enforcement of these rules, and having people in the different companies making sure that they have time to enforce the rules that their coders are doing as they are implementing and developing software. So looking at the cost of the implementing of solution 1 and creating a digital repository, it would be around $61,000. That is the web creation, the web page creation, the web page management, and then also the creation and consolidation of the coding standards. But it wouldn't take very long to implement. That would probably take around 3 to 6 months to get up and going. Solution number 2 was to collaborate between companies, and that would be to create a standard training orientation program that's used for all companies, that all companies would come together and create, and that would be implemented to help new employees that are entering into that company to have a quick start. So the pros of this company collaboration effort would be that new hires would be sufficiently prepared for the work that they would be doing, and the transition between a new hire and an adjusted full-time employee would be shortened significantly. So the cons for company collaboration would be trying to gather representatives from companies across the nation. That would be incredibly expensive for lodging, for meals, for just getting to that conference. Time sink, I mean, you'd be taking time from your development process to send people to this to go ahead and collaborate. And then also there could be the failure to compromise between different companies and the way that they want to code, and trying to get other people to get on board with what they're wanting if it's different from what another company has established. So just a rough estimate on what it would cost for a company collaboration. We estimated around $500,000 or more. Again, it just depends on how many companies are sending people, and what travel expenses would be, and then also just creating this new program from the bottom up for this training program. But we think that it could be done in a timeline of 3 to 6 months. So solution number 3 was annual company and school conference, and that would create a collaboration between companies and universities, where they'd meet just a few days each year in order to create a standard set of coding rules and documentation for all needed languages. And that can be practiced by students in school and enforced by companies in the workforce. So the pros of this would be that there would be standard rules that were set from the beginning whenever the student was taking their computer programming in college. So there would be that base foundation. So that would be meaning that there would be no training necessary whenever a student leaves school and goes into the workforce, and that would also create a quick transition into the workforce. So again, the cons on this one is kind of like our second option. Our cons would be cost, just getting schools and universities along together with the workforce and coming together and just really coming together on what a standard should be and a style should be for new coders. And then also training on new standards, kind of like was mentioned before as well, that there's that pain point of what you've been doing for such a long time and then transitioning to something new. So as mentioned, the cost was going to be steep. We estimated at around $1 million or more, and that it would take about a minimum of at least 1 week a year where these schools and companies would get together and to establish and maintain the working style guide and coding standard. So out of these 3 different solutions that we came up with, our solution was to recommend solution number 1, which was the coding repository, as it is both the cheapest and the most accessible option, and that while solution 2 and 3 would create a similar environment, it would cost an extraordinary amount of money that the capital that would be very hard to raise. So in conclusion, if the time sink caused by inconsistencies in the coding practices is to be eliminated, we need to take action to address the inconsistencies by implementing a coding standard that is 1, easy to access, 2, is easy to implement, and 3, is easy to follow. And we believe that the best way to do this is to go with solution 1.